The transport ship landed on Station Meridian 7 with a soft hum. Maya Chen stood near the window and watched the massive space station grow larger. She was 26 years old, small in height, and had a face that most people described as gentle. Her dark hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. Her eyes were calm and showed nothing of what lay beneath. She was the first human to ever join the Galactic Peacekeepers Academy. The Council had approved the cultural exchange program after years of negotiation. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage. Most alien species saw them as fragile creatures from a small planet. They were not taken seriously. Maya stepped off the transport and into the station's massive entrance hall. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around her. Some towered over her at 8 feet tall. Others had multiple arms or scales or skin that changed colors. A few glanced at her with curiosity. Most ignored her completely. A tall alien approached her. He stood nearly 7 feet high with blue-gray skin and sharp features. His eyes were like polished silver, and his body was covered in natural armor plates. This was Commander Krathfer of the Velthari species. The Velthari were known throughout the galaxy as the finest warriors. They had founded the Peacekeepers Academy 300 years ago. Krathfer looked down at Maya. His expression showed clear disappointment. He had seen the reports about humans. They were weak compared to most species. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. He could not understand why the Council had approved this exchange. "You are the human," he said. It was not a question. "Commander," Maya replied. Her voice was soft and polite. "Ensign Maya Chen, reporting for training." Krathfer made a sound that might have been a sigh. "Follow me. I will take you to your squad." He walked quickly, not caring if she could keep up. Maya followed without complaint. She kept her steps light and her breathing steady. She noticed everything around her. The security cameras, the guard positions, the layout of the corridors. Old habits never truly died. They reached a training room where 3 aliens waited. Krathfer introduced them as Squad Epsilon. The first was Zaire, a massive Theshan with 4 arms and muscles that looked like they could bend steel. He crossed 2 of his arms and looked at Maya like she was a small insect. The second was Nyx, a Korathi female with pale skin and large dark eyes. The Korathi were telepaths. They could read emotions and surface thoughts. Nyx reached out with her mind and touched Maya's consciousness. She expected to find fear or anxiety. Instead, she found stillness, like a lake with no wind. It was strange, but Nyx dismissed it. Perhaps humans simply had simple minds. The third was Torek, a Dravani covered in green scales with a tail that ended in sharp spines. He grinned at Maya, showing rows of pointed teeth. "I give her 1 week," he said to the others. "Who wants to bet against me?" Zaire laughed. "That is generous. I say 3 days." Maya said nothing. She simply stood with her, hands clasped in front of her, and waited. "Commander." Krathfer explained the training program: combat, tactics, weapons, survival. The Academy trained the best peacekeepers in the galaxy. The standards were high. The week did not last. Over the next 2 weeks, Maya trained with her squad. She did everything that was asked of her. She ran the obstacle courses. She practiced with training weapons. She studied tactical theory, but she never excelled. She always performed at exactly the minimum level needed to pass. Never more, never less. Her squad mates grew frustrated with her. Zaire complained that she was slowing them down. Torek collected money from those who had bet she would fail in the first week. Even Nyx, who was usually kind, began to doubt whether Maya belonged there. The combat assessment came at the end of the second week. Each cadet had to demonstrate their fighting abilities against training drones. The Velthari cadets destroyed theirs with powerful strikes. The Veshans used their multiple arms to overwhelm the machines. Even the smaller species showed impressive speed or special techniques. Maya stepped into the ring. 3 training drones activated and moved toward her. She defeated them with simple blocks and basic strikes. Her movements were technically correct but showed no power, no aggression. The drones fell, but nobody was impressed. Commander Crathver watched from the observation deck. He shook his head slowly. The human will be assigned to logistics support, he announced. She is unsuitable for field operations. Maya nodded when she heard this. I understand, Commander, she said quietly. There was no argument. No disappointment in her voice. Just acceptance. That night, the station grew quiet as most cadets went to sleep. Nyx could not rest. Her telepathic senses felt something strange, a presence that had not been there before. She followed the feeling to the main training hall. The lights inside were off. But through the window, Nyx could see movement in the darkness. Someone was inside. She reached out with her mind to identify them. What she found made her stumble backward. It was Maya. But the stillness Nyx had felt before was gone. In its place was something that burned like a cold star, controlled, ancient, deadly. Nyx caught fragments of thought. Training halls with harsh lights, instructors who showed no mercy, missions with names that were only numbers. Years of discipline compressed into a single word that echoed through. Maya's mind, patience, always patience. Nyx broke the connection. Her hearts were beating fast. She did not understand what she had seen. The gentle human who could barely fight the training drones. The quiet girl who accepted her failure without protest. How could that same person contain such darkness? The training hall door opened. Maya stepped out into the corridor. The cold fire in her mind vanished instantly, replaced by that familiar stillness. She smiled warmly at Nyx. Can't sleep either? Maya asked. Her voice was soft and friendly. Just like always. Nyx stared at her. For the first time since coming to the academy, the telepath could not find words. She had read the minds of warriors and criminals and diplomats. She had never felt anything like what she had just experienced. Maya tilted her head slightly. Is something wrong? No, Nyx managed to say. Nothing. I was just ... walking. Maya nodded and walked past her toward the sleeping quarters. Good night, Nyx, she said over her shoulder. Nyx watched her go. The small human with the gentle smile. The girl everyone dismissed as weak. The cadet assigned to logistics because she could not fight. What are you? Nyx thought. What are you really? She did not sleep at all that night. They mistook her for Timid till her combat skills redefined.
Oh.
Fear Part 2, 3 weeks into training, Squad Epsilon received their first real mission. It was supposed to be a simulation. A training exercise designed to test their skills in a controlled environment. They would infiltrate a mock terrorist compound, rescue hostages, and neutralize threats. Everything was planned. Everything was safe. Nothing went according to plan. The compound was located on a small moon connected to Station Meridian 7. Squad Epsilon arrived with 12 other cadets for the joint exercise. Commander Crathver led the operation from the front, as Velthary commanders always did. Maya stayed at the rear in her support role, monitoring communications and tactical data from a safe distance outside the compound. The exercise began normally. The cadets moved through the compound in formation. Training drones appeared as enemies. Everything proceeded exactly as expected. Then the real mercenaries arrived, the Crimson. Talon's syndicate had been watching the academy for months. They saw an opportunity. 12 elite cadets from wealthy species. A commander from a noble Velthary family. The ransom would be enormous. They struck fast. Jamming signals blocked all communications. 30 armed mercenaries surrounded the compound. Before the cadets could react, they were captured. The training weapons they carried were useless against real armor. Maya watched from her position outside the perimeter. Her tactical display showed nothing but static. The communication channels were dead. Through her scope, she could see mercenaries dragging cadets into the main building. She counted their numbers. 30 hostiles. Heavy weapons. Professional formation. Inside the compound, Commander Crathver tried to negotiate. The mercenary leader was a scarred Velthary named Sarn. He had been expelled from the warrior. Cast years ago for crimes too dark to speak of. Now he led the Crimson Talon with brutal efficiency. The Galactic Council will pay well for you, Sarn said. He pointed his weapon at Krathver. Tell your cadets to stay quiet, and nobody dies. Yet, Krathver stood tall, despite his bonds. You will regret this. The Peacekeepers will hunt you across every system. Sarn laughed and shot him with a neural disruptor. Krathver collapsed, unconscious but alive. The cadets watched in horror. Even Zaire, with all his strength, could do nothing against the weapons pointed at him. Outside, Maya activated her emergency beacon. It was a direct line to Station Command, bypassing the jammed frequencies. A voice crackled through. Ensign Chen, report your situation. Hostiles have taken the compound, Maya said calmly. 30 mercenaries. 12 cadets and Commander Krathver are hostages. Requesting permission to attempt rescue? There was a long pause. Negative, Ensign. Tactical response teams are being assembled. Estimated arrival is for hours. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Wait for backup. Maya looked at the compound. For hours. A lot could happen in 4 hours. Sarn did not seem like a patient man. If negotiations failed, he might start killing hostages to prove his seriousness. Understood, Maya said. Then she switched off her communicator. She removed her cadet jacket and set it aside. Underneath, she wore a simple black underlayer that fit close to her body. She tied her hair back tighter. Then she stood still for a moment and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed. The gentle curve of her shoulders straightened. Her breathing slowed to a rhythm that was almost mechanical. The softness in her face became something harder. Not cruel, just focused. Like a blade being drawn from its sheath, she began to move toward the compound. Inside, Sarn grew impatient. His lieutenant, a four-armed mercenary named Voss, monitored the perimeter sensors. A light blinked on his screen. Movement on the east side, Voss reported. Sarn frowned. Send 2 soldiers to check. 2 mercenaries moved toward the east entrance. They did not return. Voss tried to contact them. Static. Probably equipment failure, Voss said, but his voice was uncertain. Sarn sent 2 more. Same result? No contact. No response. Now the other mercenaries were getting nervous. They'd expected a simple kidnapping. Rich cadets who would not fight back? Easy money. But something was wrong. Voss pulled up the security cameras. Most showed empty corridors. But on camera 7 he caught movement. A shadow passing between frames. He rewound the footage and froze it on a single image. A small human woman stood in the corridor. She was looking directly at the camera, and she was smiling. It was not the gentle smile her squadmates knew. This smile was cold and confident. The smile of someone who knew exactly what was about to happen. What is that? Sarn demanded. The human cadet, Voss said slowly. The one assigned to logistics. Our laughed. 1 human? Against 30 of us? He grabbed his communicator. All units, we have 1 hostile. Human, female, small build. Find her and bring her to me. I want to make an example. His soldiers spread out through the compound. They moved in pairs, weapons ready. They were experienced mercenaries who had fought across a dozen systems. One by one, they went silent. In the main room, the cadets heard strange sounds echoing through the building. Brief struggles. Cut-off shouts. Then nothing. The lights flickered. The mercenaries guarding them grew increasingly afraid. Zaire tested his restraints again. Still too strong to break, but he noticed something. The guards were not watching the prisoners anymore. They were watching the doors. What is happening? Torek whispered. Nyx closed her eyes and reached out with her telepathy. She searched for the familiar minds of the mercenaries. She found fear, confusion, pain, and beneath it all, she found something else. A presence moving through the compound like a ghost. She touched Maya's mind and immediately pulled back. The cold fire she had felt before was burning brighter than ever, but there was no rage in it, no hatred. Just pure, absolute focus. The doors to the main room burst open. A mercenary stumbled through, his weapon gone, his arm hanging at a wrong angle. He tried to speak, but collapsed before he could form words. Behind him, the corridor was dark. Something moved in that darkness. Sarn raised his weapon. "Show yourself." Maya stepped into the light. Her black clothes were still clean. Her breathing was steady. She had just neutralized over 20 armed mercenaries. And she looked like she had been taking a casual walk. She looked at Sarn with eyes that held no fear, no anger, just patient calculation. "You hurt my commander," she said softly. "That was a mistake." Sarn aimed his weapon at her chest. "You are one small human. I have killed species twice your size." Maya tilted her head slightly. Her lips curved into that cold smile. "You talk too much." She moved. Sarn fired. The shot burned through the air where Maya had been standing a fraction of a second before. But she was already inside his guard, her hand around his throat, her body positioned so the other mercenaries could not get a clear shot without hitting their leader. Sarn's silver eyes went wide. He was a Velthari warrior, trained since birth. He had not even seen her move. "What are you?" he gasped. Maya's grip tightened. Her voice was calm and quiet. "I am what humans become when we stop being nice." They mistook her for Timid, till her combat skills redefined Fear Part 3. The remaining mercenaries stood frozen. Their leader, the feared Sarn of the Crimson Talon, was helpless in the grip of a small human woman. His feet barely touched the ground. His hands clawed uselessly at her arm. She held him like he weighed nothing. Maya's eyes moved across the room. 6 mercenaries still standing. All had weapons. None dared to fire. "Drop your weapons," she said calmly. "Lie on the floor. Put your hands behind your heads." One mercenary, a large Deshan with 4 arms, laughed nervously. "You cannot fight all of us while holding him." Maya looked at him. Just looked. The Decian stopped laughing. Something in those human eyes made his blood run cold. "You are right," Maya said. Then she threw Sarn at the Decian, with enough force to knock them both to the ground. Before the other 5 could react, she was moving. Zaire watched from his restraints. He had trained with the finest warriors in his system. He had seen champions fight in the great arenas of Desha Prime. He had never seen anything like this. Maya did not fight like a Velthari, with powerful strikes and iron defense. She did not fight like a Veshan, using multiple limbs to overwhelm opponents. She flowed like water around stone. Every movement was precise. Every strike landed exactly where it would do the most damage. She used the mercenaries against each other, positioning herself so they blocked their own allies. She turned their weapons into liabilities, their size into weakness. In 7 seconds, all 6 mercenaries were on the ground. 3 were unconscious. 2 were groaning in pain. 1 was staring at the ceiling with wide eyes, trying to understand what had just happened. Maya walked back to Sarn, who was struggling to rise. She put 1 foot on his chest and pushed him back down. "Stay," she said, like she was talking to a pet. Then she moved to her squad mates and began releasing their restraints. Her movements were efficient but gentle. The cold fire in her eyes dimmed slightly as she looked at them. "Is everyone all right?" she asked. Torek rubbed his wrists where the restraints had cut into his scales. He stared at Maya like he was seeing her for the first time. "How, ... what?" later Maya said. She moved to Commander Kraftfer and checked his pulse. "He needs medical attention, but he will survive." The neural disruptor was set to stun, not kill. Nick stepped closer to Maya. The telepath's hands were shaking. "I felt your mind," she said quietly. "While you were fighting, I've never sensed anything like that." Maya paused for a moment. Then she continued checking on the unconscious commander. "I am sorry if it frightened you." "Frightened me?" Nix almost laughed. "Maya, you just defeated 30 armed mercenaries by yourself. You moved through them like they were standing still, in your mind. It was like touching a star, cold and burning at the same time." "We should focus on securing the area," Maya said. "There may be more hostiles outside." Zaire stood up and flexed his forearms. He walked to Maya and looked down at her. She barely reached his chest. This small creature had done what he could not. How? He asked simply. Maya finally met his eyes. Training. What kind of training makes someone move like that? Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, the kind that starts when you are a child and never truly ends. Before Zaire could ask more questions, the tactical response team arrived. 20 heavily armed peacekeepers breached the compound, expecting a fight. They found the fight already finished. Mercenaries were scattered across the building, all neutralized. The hostages were free, and a small human woman was calmly treating the wounds of an unconscious Velthari commander. The team leader, a veteran peacekeeper named Vorith, surveyed the scene with disbelief. He had received reports of a hostage situation with 30 hostiles. He had expected casualties. He had prepared for the worst. Who did this? He asked. The cadets all looked at Maya. She said nothing. The next day, Maya was called to the office of First Mind Selenix. The academy's director was an ancient Korathi, over 400 years old. Her telepathic abilities were legendary. It was said she could read minds from across a room without effort. Maya entered the office and stood at attention. Selenix sat behind a desk made of crystal that glowed with soft light. The old Korathi studied Maya with her large dark eyes. Sit, Selenix said. Her voice was like wind through leaves. We have much to discuss. Maya sat. She kept her posture straight and her hands in her lap. She waited. The official report says that Ensign Maya Chen, assigned to logistics support, single-handedly neutralized 30 Crimson Talon mercenaries and rescued 12 hostages, including Commander Krathfer. Selenix tilted her head. Logistics support. Interesting assignment for someone with your background. Maya did not react. My background? Child, Selenix said gently. I am 400 years old. I have served the Galactic Council since before your species discovered fire. Did you truly think I did not know what you are? Silence filled the room. It's silent protocol. Selenix continued. Humanity's most classified program. Children selected at young ages and trained to become perfect protectors. Weapons in human form? You were part of that program for 18 years. You left 3 years ago. Aya's mask flickered. Just for an instant, something like surprise crossed her face. How do you know this? Because I requested you specifically, Selenix said. When the cultural exchange was proposed, I asked Earth's government to send someone from the silent protocol. They sent you. Why? Selenix leaned forward. The galaxy does not respect humanity. Your species is young. You lack the natural weapons of the Velthari, the strength of the Vessians, the telepathy of my people. Most alien species see humans as weak, fragile, unimportant. And you wanted to change that perception, Maya said slowly. I wanted the galaxy to see the truth. Selenix's eyes gleamed. Humanity did not survive your brutal planet by being weak. You survived by being patient, by being adaptable, by becoming exactly what you needed to be to overcome every challenge. Maya was quiet for a long moment. The silent protocol was supposed to be secret. If this information spreads, it will not spread, Selenix assured her. But your squad mates saw what you can do. Commander Krathver will want answers. You have a choice to make, child. What choice? Selenix stood and walked to the window. Outside, ships moved through the darkness of space. Stars burned in the eternal void. You can return to anonymity. I will classify the incident. Your squad mates will be ordered to remain silent. You can continue as the quiet human who works in logistics. Your secret will be safe, or Selenix turned to face her. Or you can step forward. Show the galaxy what humanity truly is. Let them see the strength that hides behind gentle smiles and soft voices. Emiya thought about her years in the silent protocol. The training that never ended. The missions she could never speak about. The person she had become. She had left that life behind, or tried to. She had come to the academy seeking something normal, but normal had never been possible for her. Perhaps it never would be. If I reveal myself, Maya said carefully, there will be consequences. Some species will fear humans. Others will want our secrets. Yes, Selenix agreed. But fear and respect often walk together. And perhaps it is time for the galaxy to learn that the quiet ones are sometimes the most dangerous. She walked to the window and stood beside the ancient Corythi. She looked out at the stars that humanity had only recently begun to explore. "I need to think," she said. "Of course." Selenix placed a gentle hand on Maya's shoulder. "But do not take too long. Your squad mates are waiting for you, and I believe they have questions that deserve answers." Maya nodded slowly. She had spent her whole life learning to hide, learning to be invisible, learning to be underestimated. Perhaps it was time to learn something new. They mistook her for Timid. Till her combat skills redefined fear part, for Maya stepped out of First Mind Selenix's office. The corridor was empty, except for 3 figures waiting against the far wall. Zaire, Nyx, and Torek, her squad mates. They had been there for hours. They straightened when they saw her. Zaire's forearms were crossed. Torek's tail twitched nervously. Nyx simply watched with those large dark eyes that saw too much. Maya stopped in front of them. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Commander Krathver appeared at the end of the corridor. He walked toward them slowly. There was a bandage on his neck where the neural disruptor had struck him. He should have been resting. But Velthari warriors did not rest when matters of honor remained unsettled. He stopped in front of Maya and looked down at her. His silver eyes held something they had never held before when looking at the small human dot. Then Commander Krathver bowed. It was a deep bow, the kind Velthari, reserved for those they considered true warriors. Maya had studied enough galactic cultures to know what this meant. It was the highest honor a Velthari could give. "I was wrong about humans," Krathver said. "I was wrong about you. I judged you by your size and your gentleness. I did not see the warrior beneath." He straightened. "I would be honored if you would train with us. Truly train. Not as a support officer. As a full member of Squad Epsilon." Maya looked at her squad mates. They were watching her with new eyes. Not fear, though there was some of that. Mostly curiosity and respect. "You want to know what I am?" Maya said quietly. "You deserve to know." She gestured toward a nearby training room. "Come, I will explain." They gathered in the empty room. Maya stood before them like a teacher before students. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "Earth is a dangerous planet. Our history is filled with violence. Wars, disasters, extinctions. Humanity learned early that survival required preparation for the worst." She began to pace slowly. 300 years ago, when humanity first made contact with alien species, our governments realized something terrifying. We were weak. Compared to most galactic species, humans are small, fragile, and lack natural weapons. We had no telepathy, no armor, no incredible strength. "But you survived," Nyx said softly. "Somehow, your species survived a brutal evolutionary history." Maya nodded. "We survived because we adapted. We learned. We became what we needed to become." She paused. "The silent protocol was created as humanity's last line of defense. Children were selected at young ages based on specific traits. Physical potential, mental flexibility, emotional control. They were trained from childhood to become protectors. You were one of these children," Krathver said. "I was taken into the program when I was 6 years old. For 18 years, I trained every day. Combat, infiltration, psychology, tactics. They taught us to be invisible, to be underestimated, to appear harmless until the moment we chose not to be." Zaire shook his head slowly. "I have trained since I was young as well. But I cannot do what you did. The way you moved, the way you fought, it was not natural." Maya smiled slightly. "It was not natural. It was learned. Every movement practiced 10,000 times until it became instinct. Every technique refined until it was perfect. The silent protocol did not create warriors. We created something else. Something new." "Why did you leave?" Torek asked. Maya's smile faded. "I completed many missions. I protected humanity from threats that most people never knew existed. But after 18 years, I began to wonder what else life could be. The program gave me skills, but it took something from me, too. Normal experiences, friendships, the chance to be something other than a weapon. She looked at each of them in turn. I came to this academy hoping to find a new purpose. I deliberately hid my abilities. I wanted to see if I could be ordinary. If I could be just another cadet learning alongside others. That is why you performed so poorly in assessments, Crathfer realized. You were pretending to be weak. Not weak. Just normal. Maya shook her head. But when the mercenaries attacked, when they hurt you and threatened my squad, I could not pretend anymore. Nick stepped forward. When I touched your mind during the fight, I felt no anger. No hate, just focus. How is that possible? Emotion is useful, Maya said. But uncontrolled emotion leads to mistakes. The silent protocol taught us to feel our emotions, acknowledge them, and then set them aside. During combat, there is only the mission, only the objective. Everything else waits until the fight is over. The room was silent as they processed this information. Finally, Zaire spoke. What happens now? Maya had been thinking about this since her conversation with Selenix. She had spent years hiding, years pretending to be less than she was, but these people had become her squadmates, her friends. They deserved honesty. First Mind Selenix gave me a choice, Maya said. I can return to hiding, continue as the quiet human nobody notices. Or I can step forward and show the galaxy what humans truly are. What did you decide? Nix asked. Maya looked at them. These aliens who had once dismissed her, who had bet on how quickly she would fail. Now they looked at her with respect and genuine curiosity. I'm tired of hiding, she said finally. If you will have me, I would like to train with Squad Epsilon. Really train? I can teach you things no other species knows. Ways of fighting that use the mind as much as the body. Techniques for turning weaknesses into strengths. Crathfer extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. He had learned it from cultural files. Squad Epsilon would be honored to have you, not as a support officer, as our equal. Maya took his hand. Her grip was firm and steady. Then let us begin. Over the following months, Squad Epsilon transformed. Maya trained with them openly now, no longer hiding her abilities. But more importantly, she trained them. She taught Zaire that his great size could be a weakness if opponents used it against him. She showed him how to move with precision rather than just power. She worked with T's to develop her telepathic abilities as a combat tool. Reading enemy intentions, projecting fear, sensing attacks before they came, she trained Toric to use his natural flexibility and sharp tail in ways Dravani warriors had never imagined. And she taught all of them the most important lesson of the silent protocol. The greatest weapon was being underestimated. Word spread through the academy. The human was not what she seemed. Cadets who had once ignored Maya now watched her with respect. Some even requested to train with her. She accepted them all, teaching freely what had once been humanity's most guarded secrets. 6 months passed. Squad Epsilon rose from average rankings to the top of their class. They fought differently than other squads. They thought differently. They had learned to see combat not as a test of strength, but as a puzzle to be solved. But the Crimson Talon Syndicate had not forgotten their humiliation. Sarn had escaped custody during a transfer between prison facilities. He had spent 6 months rebuilding his forces, gathering ships, planning revenge, and now he was ready. The alarm sirens began at midnight. Red lights flashed through the station corridors. A voice announced the emergency. All personnel, this is not a drill. Unknown hostile fleet approaching Station Meridian 7. All combat-ready units report to defense positions. Maya was already awake. She had felt something wrong for days. An instinct developed over years of training. She moved to the window of her quarters and looked out at the stars. A fleet of 30 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel. Their hulls bore the crimson markings of the Talon Syndicate. At their center was a massive command ship. Through the void, she could almost feel Sarn's hatred reaching toward her. He had come for revenge. He had brought an army. Maya began to dress for combat. This time, there would be no hiding, no pretending. The galaxy would see exactly what a human could do when there was no longer any reason to hold back. They mistook her for Timid till her combat skills. Redefined Fear Part 5. The Crimson Talon fleet surrounded Station Meridian, 7 like wolves circling wounded prey. 30 warships against a training facility. Sarn had brought enough firepower to destroy the station 10 times over. But destruction was not his goal. Humiliation was. His voice echoed through the station's communication systems. Peacekeepers of Meridian 7, this is Sarn of the Crimson Talon. I am here for one thing. Send me the human called Maya Chen, and I will spare your station. You have 1 hour. In the command center, First Mind Selenix listened to the ultimatum with calm eyes. Around her, officers scrambled to organize defenses. The station's shields were strong, but they would not hold forever against such a fleet. We cannot surrender a cadet, Commander Krathver said firmly. It goes against everything we stand for, agreed Selenix said. We will fight. With respect, First Mind, another officer interjected, our defensive forces are designed for training, not war. The evacuation ships cannot launch while the fleet blocks our escape routes. We are trapped. Maya entered the command center. She wore her black combat suit, the same one from 6 months ago. Her squad mates followed close behind. I heard the ultimatum, Maya said. I will not let this station burn because of me. You are not going to surrender yourself, Krathver stated. No, Maya agreed. I am going to end this. She turned to Selenix. First Mind, I need your permission to lead a strike team. We cannot defeat the fleet in space, but we do not need to. We only need to take out Sarn. Without their leader, the Syndicate will scatter. Selenix studied her. You propose to board the command ship? Yes. The Talon operates on fear and loyalty to Sarn personally. Remove him, and the organization collapses. That ship will be heavily defended. Even you cannot fight an entire army alone. Amaya smiled. I will not be alone. Squalled. Epsilon stepped forward. Zyre cracked his massive knuckles. Torik's tail swished with anticipation. Nyx's dark eyes glowed with quiet determination. We trained for this, Zyre said. Whatever Maya has planned, we are ready. Krathver stepped forward as well. If Squad Epsilon goes, I go with him. I owe my life to Ensign Chen. Now I repay that debt. Selenix was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Very well. You have authorization. But understand that if you fail, this station dies. Maya met her eyes. We will not fail. The assault shuttle launched from the station's lower bay, hidden by the chaos of the defensive battle above. Maya piloted with precise movements. Threading through the crossfire between the station's guns and the attacking fleet, the command ship's shields have a weak point in their cargo bay section, Nyx reported. She was connected to the station's tactical network through her telepathy. If we approach from beneath, we can slip through. Maya adjusted course. The shuttle was small and fast, designed for exactly this kind of infiltration. She had trained on similar vessels during her silent protocol days. They reached the command ship's underside. Maya matched the shield frequency for a split second, just long enough to pass through. The shuttle entered the cargo bay and landed hard behind a stack of containers. 5 targets nearby, Nyx whispered. More throughout the ship. One count over 200. 200 against 5, Torik muttered. Fair odds. The odds are better than you think, Maya said. She outlined the plan quickly. We do not fight all of them. We use the ship against itself. Cause confusion. Create fear. Make them think there are more of us than there are. Ash, Krathver nodded. The Velthari use similar tactics in siege warfare. Strike and vanish. Keep the enemy guessing. Exactly, yeah. Maya handed out small devices from her belt. These are signal jammers. Plant them at key communication nodes. Once their internal network goes dark, They cannot coordinate. They become individuals instead of an army. Individuals are scared, Nyx added. I can make them more scared. They split into teams. Krathver and Zyre went to the engine section. Torek and Nyx moved toward the bridge. Maya went alone toward Sarn's personal quarters. The chaos began within minutes. Explosions echoed through the ship's corridors. Lights flickered and died. Communications went silent. Mercenaries ran through the hallways, trying to find enemies that appeared and vanished like ghosts. Zyre threw a mercenary through a wall with all 4 arms. Krathver fought with the precision of Velthari tradition combined with the flowing techniques Maya had taught him. Torek used the darkness and his natural camouflage to strike from nowhere. Nyx was the most terrifying. She broadcast fear directly into the minds of every mercenary she could reach. They saw shadows move. They heard whispers in empty corridors. They felt certain that death was coming for them. Many dropped their weapons and fled. Maya moved through the ship like a whisper. She did not engage large groups. She struck single targets, disabled security systems, and left confusion in her wake. The mercenaries began to believe they were facing an army of phantoms. She reached Sarn's quarters and stepped inside. He was waiting for her. The scarred Velthari stood in the center of the room, holding a weapon that glowed with deadly energy. I knew you would come to me, he said. You could not resist. You threatened my friends, Maya said simply. You threatened my station. Of course I came, Sarn laughed bitterly. Last time, you caught me by surprise. I have studied you since then, human. I know your tricks now. Speed and precision will not save you, he fired. Maya dodged, but the weapon's blast caught her shoulder, sending pain through her arm. She rolled behind cover, you see. Sarn advanced. I prepared for this. Weapons designed to track fast-moving targets. Armor that resists your pressure strikes. You cannot defeat me with the same techniques twice. Maya pressed her hand against her wounded shoulder. Blood seeped through her fingers. He was right. Her usual methods would not work here, so she would use different methods. You made one mistake, she said from behind cover. What is that? You assumed I work alone? The door behind Sarn exploded inward. Zyre charged through like a living battering ram, his 4 arms grabbing Sarn's weapon arm. Krathver followed, striking precisely at the joints in Sarn's armor. Torek's tail swept his legs from beneath him. Nyx projected pure terror directly into his mind. Sarn collapsed. Overwhelmed by the coordinated assault of 5 opponents who fought as one unit, Maya stepped out of cover. She walked to where Sarn lay helpless and looked down at him. The first time we fought, I defeated you alone, she said. This time, I brought my squad. That is what you never understood about humans. We are strongest together. The battle was over. Without Sarn's commands, the Crimson Talon fleet surrendered within the hour. Their leader was captured, and their organization was broken. 3 days later, Maya stood before the Galactic Council. Representatives from 100 species watched the small human woman who had stopped an invasion. The Council has discussed the events at Station Meridian 7, the chief speaker announced. We have reached a decision regarding humanity's place in the galactic community. Maya waited quietly. Whatever came next, she would accept it. Humanity is hereby granted full peacekeeping partnership, the speaker declared. Your species has proven that strength comes in many forms. We welcome you as equals. Behind Maya, the gallery erupted in applause. Humans and aliens celebrated together. A new era was beginning. Later on the transport back to the station, Krathver sat beside Maya. May I ask you something? Of course, when we first met, you hid your true abilities. You let us dismiss you as weak. Why? Maya looked out at the stars. My instructors taught me that the most powerful weapon is the one your enemy does not know exists. She turned to face him. But they also taught me something more important. True strength is knowing when to let others see who you really are. Krathver nodded slowly. And now the galaxy sees humanity clearly, Maya smiled. Not the gentle mask she had worn before. Not the cold smile of combat. Something real and warm. Now the galaxy sees the truth. Humans are kind and gentle and patient. We prefer peace to war. But when patience ends, she looked at her squad mates gathered around her. So does everything else. The transport continued toward Station Meridian 7. Behind them, a new chapter in galactic history was beginning. And at its center was a small human woman who had been mistaken for Timid. That mistake would never be made again.